What's it been like watching this trial for you? What's when you see it?
So I was asked to do a podcast on this trial 3 days into jury selection, like completely rushed last minute. It was definitely something I was not interested in doing because somebody always owns your voice and your voice is always edited to the current tone of the current owners. And I just don't like playing that game anymore. But I kind of got some guarantees that I would have a different experience. But more so, what I've learned throughout this trial is yes, traumatic, absolutely. As someone that was there, who knows all the people that are on the stand, who knows where we're not fully telling the truth, where we're skipping around some things, where we're dancing, or where this or that is occurring, who knows a whole bunch of people that should be up there, who knows a much bigger picture book of this. It's been rough on all sides. Working for somebody during re-examining what I worked for, I thought would be a different experience. It wasn't. Re-listening to everything that was so normal to me and watching the world be so outraged by it makes me hurt for that part of myself that I shedded long ago. So there's nothing I can really do about it.
But it brings it back.
It forces me to re-examine the behavior, but that person is gone.
Right.
I had to shed that person. I've learned along my journey, and I started it and when I was too young to have a drink in my hand on TV to 41 now. I've had to shed many layers of myself, versions of myself that I loved, but I couldn't hold them anymore because they had so much sorrow and too much unfair things that they had felt, and they were weighing me down. And if you get too weighed down, you can go places that you shouldn't go in life that aren't healthy. So I had to shed them.
Did you expect to get subpoenaed at some point?
No, because once I heard the charges, they're very specific charges, and I was not being sex trafficked. I was never willingly having sex with anyone there. There are other pieces of my story that I still don't understand, and those are for reasons based on this trial, and when you speak with Homeland Security, victims can't speak with victims. There's no way to investigate certain things when so many victims are held down and so many people are lawyered up, and there's a much bigger situation at hand that has to occur. So I'll be finding more out as time continues. I'm not loving that piece. I thought I'd get excited toward the end. I'm excited to be done doing the job that I was asked to do, for sure. I love being a lawyer and assessing prosecution. I love the law. That part of it was great. But I have a journey ahead, and as we get closer to the ending of this one, I'm starting to realize I wish we could go a little bit longer. It's here before I was ready for it.
Why is that?
Because I don't know if I'm going to like what I find out. Either way, it's something that affected me in a very pivotal way, and it's either the truth or it's a lie. And if it's the truth, it's horrific and there's nothing I can do about it. And if it's a lie, it's horrific that would happen. And I don't know what I would do about it in that situation. I hope I at least get one of those. Some people don't even get to those two places. I'm hoping that I at least get resolution on all aspects of my history when I'm able to. But it's been hard. This is a very layered person. There are days that I absolutely am disgusted by him and think he is the fucking devil. And there are days where I have compassion for him. There are days, not during this trial, but prior to the trial, where I remembered what it was like to love him as a human. And I'm constantly, I think I try to figure out where he lost the plot and how it all went so wrong more than I think he does for himself so far.
You said recently that you've been speaking the truth about Diddy for 20 years.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
So he fired me on national television after multiple seasons of making the band, I think 6 or 7, I can't remember. And he fired me for being raunchy, promiscuous, and bad for business. As we all know, he has no problem with raunchy and promiscuous, so I probably would have been given a pay grade, a payment at all for my work, my 2 platinum albums. I probably would have been given a raise if those were true. Those things back then, there wasn't Me Too, there wasn't slut walks. It was like, you're that girl. And that only leaves you a small window and lane to move in, and I've extended it to 41, so I think I did a pretty good job, especially with titles that weren't fair to me. And it wasn't even an era, and I have attorneys around me, I grew up with attorneys. It wasn't even an era where anyone around me said you should sue for wrongful termination. Those types of thoughts didn't exist then for women in that type of setting. I didn't ever meet anyone at HR. I don't believe there was one. If there was one, we weren't introduced. The way that I remember and learned how I maneuvered all the things that were coming at me was quite impressive, frankly. Also, I'm sad that I had to make sure I never offended anyone that had power over me. I had to make them feel like all of the things that were going on were okay. But I had to make sure I didn't let any of them actually happen. And that was all before I had to put my makeup and hair on and get on stage and perform for hours and hours, sometimes morning radio, afternoon MySpace set, at the end of the day tour, and then a club appearance after where we perform, and then you get on a very small plane to the next city and you do it all over again, because at that day and age, you had to go to morning radio and show up if you wanted to get a #1 song on the radio. You had to shake the hands of every person at morning radio, and you had to ask them to please consider you. It was a real job back in the day. J-O-B, and we were doing it. It was before streaming. It was before all of that. So it was very, very intense. To have made no money during any of it is like insane. To have platinum albums, and also like it was before streaming, so it's a lot of money. It's real money. It's not like you had 1 million listeners and you get a penny. Right. People had to actually go in and buy the hard copy, $17.99, $14.99 for the regular, So it was just a completely different era, but it was a very hardworking era. There were no shortcuts. There was no AI. You had to Diddy didn't even let us lip sync. A lot of people lip sync a lot of live performances, or at least have tracked vocals. We had to sing 5-part harmony live everywhere we went. We didn't even have like vocal rigs that could move our vocals into place like other people did.
Who is Diddy? Who is this man?
I think Diddy is a hurt person that hurt people. I think that's what all people that do horrific things are. There's a small percentage that were mentally unstable from the jump, and those are very severe categories of humans. I don't know that he's one of those. I've had days where I wonder. I wouldn't have wondered that back when I was in person with him. I've had days, though, where I've wondered it during this trial. But I still land back on, no, I saw a human in there. I saw when the eyes went black, too, and you didn't see anybody there. I saw both of those people.
Wow.
That's why this testimony is so complicated, and the world can break it on down to something very digestible, because unfortunately that's the stupidity that we're at right now as a society. But, you read a message that says, I want to be freaky. And then the person is saying, I wrote that because I wanted him to pay attention and love me, and that was his language, which then is basically explaining and showing the world what coercion looks like in real time. But it comes down to like believing it or not believing it. Well, it's very complicated. I'm sure that they loved him, and also they felt forced, as they said.
Do you know Cassie?
Yes.
And?
Cassie was brought in after I was already there.
And what are your thoughts on Cassie?
I think Cassie is an incredibly brave human. It was not easy to do what she did, especially 1 week away from delivering a child. I think that she was honest in her testimony. I was one of the first, and I don't know how many people came after me. It was pretty silent that stood up for her immediately when her case dropped. I was the first female celebrity girl to publicly make a statement. I mean, literally my friend at CNN that I was interviewing on my podcast the other day was like, you were the first. It came in live while I was on air and I read it. And I was like scared that I might have like, I wasn't sure if I was standing on all 10 toes at moments. I would hear things and I would process things and I would get nervous. I think she was very fair about everything on the stand. She took ownership over the days where she said things that she wanted. She took ownership of wanting certain things. She took ownership of not wanting things. She didn't, she's a very different witness than Jane Doe. And everyone that was in the courtroom felt that way that I've spoken to as well. And I'm glad that I stood behind her, and I believe that she told the truth on the stand. And I'm horrified that she had to relive that. And I think she did a lot of good with being so open about the places that this industry can take you.
All right, just cleaning up here.
Yeah.
So,
you're like, plastic surgery rewind.
that's like such a weird term.
I know. I find out about the indictment on Plastic Surgery Rewind.
Oh,
so there's something.
Oh, really? So
yeah.
We see that reaction on camera.
I actually was filming a scene. That morning I'd woken up. I'm part of a documentary that's been done that hasn't come out yet regarding this topic. And I was talking to my producer, just kind of saying like, this would have been... There's windows of times, you know, you don't usually see big indictments drop like on Christmas or on big holidays. Like, everybody's got schedules. And I knew that there was like a window before there was a holiday, and it would likely be that I saw things moving and shaking. I saw people moving and shaking. There were signs. And I was like, they didn't get them. It should have already happened. This was the window. And there was some type of astrology thing that happened that day. Everybody was supposed to go look at the sky, right at like the change of sunset and night, and the energy was shifting into whatever sign is the sign of truth telling and exposing the truth. And she said that to me, and I got off the phone thinking, everybody always goes to astrology when they want to make you feel better about some up shit. Like, you know, I like kind of brushed it off, and even though I believe in things, but you know, I walked outside thinking that, and I walked right into a situation where I found out about he was indicted in real time on camera.
Wow.
Yeah, and the earthquake and aftershocks that it gave this entire production were felt from the people in front of the cameras to all the way real far back behind the cameras. All the cameramen came over and gave me a hug. It was big.
Yeah, well, there's a reason to watch right there. My final question: the jury has a big decision to make here. What do you hope they decide?
What I hope the jury decides is a complicated question, because the rational justice side of me that leads a good amount of what I do nowadays says the answer should be what was proven by the prosecution, the law. And that's conflicting to what I want personally. I think that I was hoping that we would be like slam dunking today. I was hoping that I wouldn't be having to answer so many questions and explain so many things. I was hoping to see an overall understanding across all of the journalistic sites that I pay attention to of where we're at with things, and it's just not there, unfortunately, right now. Everybody's giving a mixed bag. It's not going to be, I don't feel it's going to be a walk away with nothing at all. If it is, I'll leave the country tomorrow, because that's scary. Did they convolute enough things to make one of the sex trafficking charges more difficult? Yes. I think Cassie's sex trafficking charge is guilty. The transporting people, guilty. It's just right there, and we don't need to have a discussion about it. It's right there on the table. Those 2 counts are guilt. I think one sex trafficking will go. I think the other won't, and possibly it shouldn't. Maybe they needed to put someone else there in her place. I don't know. And RICO, I believe it's a RICO organization. I believe it was an organization of people that were working together, knowingly committing crimes.
And personally, it sounds like you would like to see him stay behind bars.
I would like him to be found guilty on what the prosecution proved. Personally, I believe he's guilty of all of the charges. I don't know if the prosecution proved it without a doubt, though. I'm hearing all kinds of different things like statute of limitations. I'm outside of the statute of limitations. I would be somebody that if something occurred and I would have found out, there's nothing I could do, even if there was proof.
But did anything occur?
We'll find out.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, my life is one big bag of interesting right now. Kind of over it. I'd like a mundane, stale, bland day.
Yeah. Well, thank you for answering all these questions. I know that some of them can be very personal, but I appreciate you sharing. So thank you.
Thank you so much.